Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I filmed a boxing commercial. Roll the intro. Before we get into the actual story of how I filmed this, I wanted to show you the video that went up on Ladder Sports Instagram. So here it is.
What would you say to the people that doubted you?
A simple thank you. I started boxing at the age of 8, and I was introduced to the sport of boxing by my father. From the very first moment that I saw it, I knew that it was exactly what I wanted to do. I'm the type of person who wants to become even better every single day. Like, I don't take any breaks and any time off. My training regimen consists of 6 days a week in the gym and at least 2 to 3 sparring sessions, which is about 10 to 12 rounds, 3 times a week. And besides that, I'm running every day and training about 3 hours a day. I think what sets me aside from other fighters is not only my style and what I can do in the ring physically, but also mentally. I think I'm one of the most mentally strong athletes in the world. I love winning, and winning is, it's all I know, and it's all that I want to do. So winning pushes me, and just knowing that I'm going to have my hand raised at the end of the night. I've been working the hardest I've ever worked for any fight in my pro career. I've been feeling the strongest and fastest I've ever felt, and it all just starts with being focused on what I have to do on November 2nd.
As I mentioned before, I'm always on Instagram, just social media in general, looking for work, reaching out to people, just trying to connect with new individuals because you never know who has some work that needs to be done. So in this particular case, I actually found Ladder through Lebron James's Instagram account. I had noticed that he posted a photo with like one of their products and he tagged them. So I went on their Instagram page and I actually just sent them a pretty simple DM. I introduced myself, I told them who I was and the kind of work that I created specifically for Instagram and social media. Just to see if they needed any work done and just to make myself available. A little context about the company. It is actually owned by LeBron James, which makes sense why he tagged them on Instagram. So shortly after I DM'd them, they responded and we set up a meeting a little later that week. I actually met with their social media manager, who's a very kind person and just amazing to work with. And she actually told me about this project that they had coming up with undefeated boxer Seniesa Estrada. At the time, I believe she was 17-0, and she had an upcoming fight that was supposed to be a very marquee matchup and was against a rival of hers, so they wanted to create a video featuring her as a ladder sport athlete and just showing off some of their products and kind of just building hype around the fight that was coming up. After we had that initial meeting, the next steps for me was to create a concept or mood board just to kind of get a feel for what they were looking and just make sure that myself and the company were on the same page. They sent me some information of branding guidelines that we needed to follow and just sort of the overall look and aesthetic that they were going after. They sent some examples of other companies' work that we were trying to emulate and mirror just to get the best results and the highest engagement on social media. Something that's important for me on my shoots is to work with people that I'm extremely comfortable with, people I've worked with in the past, which is why I stress the importance of just reaching out to people and being a reliable person and a professional just at the end of the day. On all my shoots, whenever I need audio or lighting or PAing, whatever it is, I usually work with the same group of people. So for this shoot, once I had confirmed with Ladder that we were good to go and we had scheduled a date for the shoot, I reached out to one of my really good friends, Francisco, who literally does everything for me. He's an amazing lighting technician, an amazing grip, and he just is very knowledgeable when it comes to all things cinema and just creating content. So I brought him on board as my first hire to do all my lighting for the shoot. My second hire was my friend Andrew Hag. He is a audio wizard. I actually met him on a shoot that I had for Under Armour a couple years ago. Francisco introduced me to him and I brought him on to do audio for that project. And it was another similar type of project. We were kind of in a gym studio type of situation with an athlete. So I felt like he would be the perfect person, and I knew he was extremely reliable as well. So I brought him on to do my audio for this project. And Ladder actually also asked me if I was interested in creating the photography for this project. I didn't really want to do that. I knew that the video and just the feature itself was going to be a lot of work, and it's something to note as well when you're working with different corporate clients or companies. A lot of these people may not necessarily be aware of the amount of work that goes into it, and it is a lot of work for one person to be doing the video as well as the photography for the project, especially if you have a limited constraint of time, just because you're adding just a lot of pressure and stress to yourself that may not always be necessary. In this case, I offered actually one of my friends who I'd met on a Spotify shoot in Miami. His name is Josh Sobel. He's an amazing photographer, and I actually referred him as the photographer for this project. And lastly, I also brought on my good friend Justin Choey, who we actually went to Pepperdine together to be my PA and just to do behind the scenes footage, which you're seeing here. He's just a really good person to have around, really good energy. And yeah, that was sort of the team for this shoot. Not too big, not too crazy. We actually shot in Seniesa's gym, sort of in the East LA area. Very small crew. I think there was maybe like 8 people total there. But yeah, I think it's just really important when you're sort of organizing your crew to have a very reliable cast of people that you feel comfortable with and people you can have a good time with, because that's when you're going to create the best content. So the day of the shoot, it actually went really smoothly. It was in Los Angeles, so it was extremely hot. We had to close all of the doors just for lighting purposes and for audio purposes. So we couldn't really have fans or AC on because that would mess up the audio. So it was a very, very hot day that day. So the day of the shoot, we had about 3 to 4 hours with Seniesa during her training session. The concept of it was sort of getting her background, learning about her passion and her drive behind boxing, just well led her to do that. The social media manager for Ladder actually drafted up some questions, and she was actually the person that was prompting Seniesa all these questions and just trying to get her comfortable. I was just solely in charge of the picture, the director of photography, in essence, just making sure that everything, the framing was perfect, and I didn't really have to focus so much on her responses, which was really good for me just because there's already a lot going on. However, I was also editing the project, so I sort of knew what we would need from her in order to make this video a little bit more powerful than just her giving generic answers. So while I was mainly focused on the framing and just the filming of it itself, I also had one ear open just to make sure that we were getting the proper responses that would help just create the best final product at the end of the day. We started with Seniesa just sort of answering some questions and asking her what she, how she started boxing, her influences behind it, some of her favorite boxers, and just sort of her routine as well. We wanted to get to know, what gets her ready for fight night, and just how she prepares and what goes into her training regimen as a whole. After we filmed the interview portion, which we had ringside as you're seeing here, the next part of it was just capturing B-roll. We really wanted to get some of that intensity and just, her in her zone and just training with her trainer, and just seeing just the beast that she is as an undefeated boxer. I felt like we did a really good job of just, capturing her essence, really capturing her in her zone and just focusing on what she had to do. I think we filmed this about a week before her next fight. So, it was right in that time period where she's really locked in and just getting ready for that next fight coming up. After the shoot, everything went well. I shot the whole thing on a Canon C200. So the first thing that I do after shoot is I dump all the video files onto my hard drive. I have a Lacy external hard drive that I use for all my editing and storage software and storage purposes. I find it to be the most reliable thing. So right after the shoot, I dumped all my footage onto my hard drive, just making sure that nothing is being deleted, nothing is being lost, just because if I do it in the moment, I won't procrastinate it later. And I have learned the hard way because I have definitely accidentally and formatted some cards, and you never want to be in that position, especially with a corporate client such as this. So at the gym, I dumped all the memory cards. I had my memory card from the Canon C200. I had a Sony that I was shooting a second angle on. I had my PA and behind the scenes videographer Justin. I had all his footage, and then I also had to dump all of Andrew's audio footage as well, just to make sure that we had that. So after we finished that, we wrapped up, headed home, and I think for this project we had about a 5-day turnaround window from when the video was shot to when they wanted the video published on Instagram, because her fight was, I think, a week later. So during that time, we had established with Ladder that I would create the first cut, and then after that, we would have a couple of revisions as well. So that first video, the first thing that I did is I wanted to get the correct music. I know clients are usually really picky about music and the background music that goes into it. So for me, when I'm editing, I really care about, the music really drives my edit at the end of the day. It's what gives me inspiration and what I sort of focus the video around. So I had sent Ladder, I think maybe 5 or 6 different music choices that they could choose from. They sent back the one that they wanted, and after that, I basically got to editing. So for this, the way that I approached it is I first created a 16:9 or 1920 by 1080 version of it that I would send to Ladder for them to approve. Mind you, the final product was gonna be for Instagram, where the best dimensions that perform the best are usually 4:5. However, for me, I usually like to edit it in 16:9 and then reformat it to 4:5 and just sort of crop it as I see necessary. After I finished the 16:9 version, I sent it to Ladder. They had a couple of revisions and we went through a couple rounds of that. After Ladder approved the final video content itself, I sent it over to a friend of mine who does coloring. He color graded the whole video because Ladder had a very specific look that they wanted to go for. So I sent it to him. He's a pro with DaVinci and just color grading. After he finished that 16:9 version, he sent it back to me. And after that, the video in itself was pretty much a final product at that point. The last thing that needed to be added was subtitles, because Ladder wanted subtitles on this video. On Instagram, the majority of audiences don't turn up the volume for their videos, and that's why subtitles are so important. So companies have started to adopt including subtitles in this video, especially when there's a lot of talking going on, so that if people usually tend to stick around longer and watch the video a little bit if they can just read it and don't need to turn up their volume. So after I received the colored version back, I added the subtitles on Adobe Premiere Pro. Ladder had sent me the specific font that they wanted for this video, just that went along with their branding guidelines. Added the subtitles, and within 5 days, we had the final product after all of that. So it was a very, very quick turnaround time. I feel like we did a pretty good job and the video came out really well. Seniesa went on to win that fight to become 18-0, I think it was at that point. I think she's had a couple fights since then, and she's undefeated now. This was back in September. So yeah, it was honestly a really good project to be on. I love sports, so it was just amazing to see a Latina woman just kicking butt out there and just doing her thing, and just being featured on Lebron James's vitamin company. But yeah, this just goes to show that anything can come from a simple Instagram DM, so don't be afraid to message people, to put yourself out there, because you never know who needs a videographer or a video done. With that being said, if there's any follow-up questions or anything you want cleared up, feel free to drop them in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, it really helps me out. As well, don't forget to register to vote. I know there's a lot of deadlines coming up this week, specifically here in America, so if you are over the age of 18 years old, please don't forget to register to vote. It's extremely important. I hope you stay safe out there, and I'll see you next week. Thanks.
I might just hit it through. That's on my element. I like dark skins, love a melanin. Talk, pushing the tone when I'm stepping in.